alive with us. So
Well, that's important.
yeah, I had so one of the experiences I had after my mom passed was I missed her, and I knew that she was still in existence, right? Even though I couldn't see her body, but I missed getting a hug from her. And so one night we figured out, I asked for a hug, and I could feel all of a sudden I just felt the outer layer of my skin tingle in a different way than it's ever tingled. So when I want to connect with her, and I'm clairaudient, so I can feel like I have a conversation with her in my head, but I can ask for that physical, and I get that. And it's, I'm curious about your experiences with things like that and the people you've met and kind of what your sense is of some of this.
Well, I think after-death communications are the most prominent way that most people in our modern world have been convinced of the reality of the spiritual world. Mm-hmm. After-death communications can be incredibly powerful. And I've had so many people come up to me after I've given a talk on my experience mm-hmm. and share their own experience, often of an after-death communication. I mean, many of them are near-death experiences, many of them are shared death. But to me, the after-death communications are really probably the most prominent. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I've had many a person tell me that the greatest gift they got from their loved one who had departed the physical plane was an absolute assurance in some form of communication, either around the time of passing or later, that convinced them beyond any doubt that loved soul was still very present and available to them. Mm-hmm. And I've had my own experiences like that. Of course, Proof of Heaven is built on that beautiful experience with my birth sister, who I'd never known in this life. I was adopted, so I didn't know her, but she was right there front and center as I tell the story in Proof of Heaven. Mm-hmm. And, so to me, it's all absolutely real. I don't know if you're familiar, there's a recent contest that was carried out by the Bigelow Institute, mm-hmm. Robert Bigelow in Las Vegas. I highly encourage you to check out the winning 29 essays. They're published all for free right there online at bigelowinstitute.org. Okay. And if you just read the first place paper by Jeff Mishlove, it'll give you a big old start on this. But a lot of those papers refer to after-death communications as a crucial kind of piece of evidence. Mm-hmm. But that Bigelow Institute, once those papers get out to this world, not a soul on earth who is intelligent, paying attention, at all open-minded will doubt the reality not only of the afterlife, but of reincarnation. It's an absolute fact of life. Mm-hmm. It's been demonstrated beyond any reasonable doubt. The scientific evidence is overwhelming. Just go to bigelowinstitute.org, check out Jeffrey Mishlove's paper, and then start reading the others too. Okay. I bet they're really beautiful. The second one's excellent, but it's highly technical and medical. It's by a friend of mine, Pim Ben Lammel, mm-hmm. Who's a Dutch cardiologist. But they're really all extremely good. And share those papers far and wide with everybody. I don't know why Bigelow hadn't done a bigger job of media splash, because this contest ended November 1st. Okay. That's when they announced all their winners. And so far, there was a fair amount of media splash back in January when the contest was announced. Mm-hmm. Like New York Times had an article and a bunch of other places. But so far, I've seen almost nothing of major media about the results. And the results are absolutely mind-blowing. Nobody. Cool. This is horrible news for materialists and skeptics and militant atheists. Because you read these papers and you go, all right, well, either I profess ignorance and continue to pretend I don't know all this, or I'm just stupid. Or they come around and say, well, gosh, it's obvious. It's absolutely obvious. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. It's a game changer.
You know what's interesting about that is I connected with this group that Peter Diamandis was put together, and on the surface it felt really good because it was sort of entrepreneurs from around the world that were heart-centric. But the more I heard them share, it was this sense of extending life. There's this huge focus on extending life and even playing with putting consciousness in AI. And so the more I heard about that, I was like, well, this group doesn't resonate with me. And at the core of it, I felt like they don't have a sense we go on, you know?
Part of the issue here is a big confusion in the scientific community about brain-mind connection. You know, what is the brain doing? Well, it's a filter. It's absolutely involved in consciousness. But to think that it creates consciousness is the complete joke. Of course, it does not create consciousness. And that's the point we make in Living in a Mindful Universe in our third book. And we go to great lengths from many different directions in science and philosophy to make that case crystal clear. But the true, and I think we can come to know this much better through meditation and centering prayer. I mean, there's a lot better power that's going to come from that than from trying to pretend that we can transplant, you know, our brain, you know, freeze our heads and preserve. It's not the origin of it in the first place, and is in fact functions more as a prison or shackles that confines our conscious awareness to a very narrow kind of spectrum of what's really there. And that's where opening our minds beyond the material realm can help so much. But to me, it's just a joke that people are talking about. It's materialism gone berserk.
Yeah.
You know, oh yeah, let's just cut off our head and freeze it, and then you can thaw it out. You know, I'll keep going. No, you'll be back anyway many times before then in another form. But let's go on and acknowledge reincarnation, come to a deeper understanding of our kind of connection with the universe and our ability to influence our health.
Sure. Yeah, I read recently, I get things, we're all guided really well, right? And so I've been exploring all this, all sorts of things come into my sphere, and there was, there's a group called the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which is, Zuckerberg is the founder of Facebook and his wife. And so their end of year letter from last year was talking about biomedical research, because they've been doing biomedical research apparently for 6 or 7 years now, and they were very proudly talking about how they're trying to use AI now to understand our cells. And as I started reading this, I actually started to cry. I felt very emotional that we were on this weird path with people that have an unlimited amount of resources, and they seem so misguided about what we are.
Right.
And
yeah, it's. I think, well, this is kind of what you'd expect at the end of materialism. You start running into the kind of craziness of some of this thinking. But yeah, there are better ways to get to these goals of kind of immortality of soul and connectedness and influence and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the spiritual traditions, going both east and west, going back thousands of years, have led us towards something that has a lot more power to it through meditation, centering prayer, and connecting with ourselves at a very, or with the universe at a very deep level that is much more promising.
Right. Because we can access more of what we are.
Right, exactly. It'd be great if Chan Zuckerberg would, kind of find out a little bit about this and start moving more in this positive direction. Yeah,
that's how I feel too. And the other sense is like, because I have a book I've read on subtle energies that goes into a little bit of detail about how we were actually understanding more of the electrical part of us, and studying that at Harvard and Yale in the early part of the 1900s. Using magnets and things to do stuff with ions, and it seems like we've totally gotten away from the fact that we're energy. Right. Everything, it's like people don't even have a sense that we have an energetic aspect, a huge energetic aspect of us.
Well, I think with kind of the successes of energy medicine, distance healing, people demonstrating more of this kind of power of mind over matter. It starts with placebo effect. Mm-hmm. And placebo effect is a giant effect. I mean, Big Pharma would claim that it's about a 30% barrier right out of the gate, just because your thoughts and beliefs and attitudes can have a huge influence on healing. But it goes beyond that. The scientific evidence, for example, for spontaneous remission of diseases. If you go to noetic.org, the Institute of Noetic Sciences website, and put in spontaneous remission as a search term, you'll find a book that they published in the mid-90s, and it's out of print. You can download the whole thing for free off the website. And they're now updating the database with 35 years more of data.
Cool.
And that is going to be very exciting. But that database has more than 3,500 cases of people who've healed cancer, healed advanced infections, all kinds of things beyond any kind of medical intervention.
Right.
And that's what's so exciting. And there's a beautiful book that Kelly Turner, I think, it's called Radical Remission. And she took the 1,000+ cases in that database that were cancer, and then investigated them more fully, and found basically that there were 9 factors she could identify that were very helpful in getting these people to heal themselves. And 6 of them were very spiritual. They had to do with dealing with emotions, how you process negative emotions, how you encourage positive emotions, proclaiming a more kind of spiritual sense of self and unification with the universe. There are many different kind of spiritual factors she identified, but the amazing thing was that people were curing, advanced cancers that we generally think of as a death sentence, and they were doing this with their thoughts and beliefs and attitudes. And then you run into near-death experiences, and the kind of, as you might expect, you kind of wonder a little bit about cause and effect and all that, but the fact that people can have extreme exposure to conditions that might be fatal and yet come back from it, like my meningitis, and then to have a full recovery, where does that come from? And what we argue is it's very much a spiritual kind of awareness and awakening. And I think the more people are aware of profound healing and NDEs, like my healing completely from my meningitis, and there's a medical case report on my medical records that makes it very clear that in the book Proof of Heaven, it's almost like I was too optimistic about my disease. And this medical case report by 3 doctors who were not involved in my care, going through my medical records, said there's no way that people would survive this and have a full recovery, because it's just not there in the medical literature. So how do you explain it? And there are other cases of NDEs, like Anita Morjani.
Yeah, I was just thinking of her. That's our oneness.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also Mary C. Neal, the orthopedic surgeon who had a over 30-minute warm water drowning accident kayaking in Chile in 1999. She wrote a book called Heaven and Back. But these are just a few examples. But in NDEs, you find this extraordinary kind of history of people who have completely defied, the physics, chemistry, and biology that we normally think of as interacting with the human body in some of these diseases, and they come out well.
We are so powerful.
It's exactly right. And I think, you opened this conversation with that very statement. We are far more powerful than we know, and especially when it comes to healing and coming into wholeness. Healing and dis-ease, are all kind of aspects of being a little bit less than the souls we came here to be. And I look at all the hardships, illness, injury, every bit of it is a gift, because these are mileposts that kind of mark our pathway forward as souls. And it's how we deal with those challenges and hardships that allows us to grow and transform. And that's where all this comes full circle back to where I would say that this is very much in agreement with Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, this book in the mid-20th century, The Phenomenon of Man. He was a scientist, he was a paleontologist, and he was also a French Jesuit priest, so he's very spiritual. And he realized that all that back and forth about Darwinian evolution in the mid-20th century was a bunch of banter that was missing the point. Because he saw all of consciousness throughout the universe as evolving and transforming and becoming. And that's exactly what we're involved in now. Seeing that evolution of all of consciousness throughout the cosmos. But it's only by becoming more aware that we are simply a manifestation of the consciousness of the universe at large. And we share that. That one mind is very real.
Right.
And that's where we start realizing that the only way to do it is to do it together.
Yeah.
You can't have losers. We've got to really all be in this together and lift ourselves up together. And I think the world, in spite of all its kind of polarized political madness right now, I believe is coming to that realization.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a great awakening, you know? And it was interesting, like, yeah, when you were talking about the healing, there's Greg Braden has, I don't know if you've seen this, but he has a video of a woman in, I think it's in China, and he was getting back to kind of tying it into how, when you kind of read the Gospels of Thomas, how Jesus was healing by understanding the perfection and seeing the perfection in each other. And you see this woman who has a large tumor, like in her spleen, and there's a like a X-ray sort of setup where you can see into the body, and there are 4 sort of I think they're Chinese healers with her, and she has spent some time in their community, like really getting in a good energy space. But you actually watch the tumor shrink and go away. And so they asked what were they thinking or feeling in that space, and she said, I was seeing myself in my wholeness, perfection.
Right.
And those people that were in her energy field too were seeing her in her wholeness and perfection.
Right.
So like just like what you said, yeah, it's like how powerful we are with each other when we look for the light in each other. And we shine our light, you know, with each other.
Absolutely, I love that. It's a very empowering concept, and I have no doubt that there's a tremendous amount of ability for us not only to heal ourselves physically, but mentally, emotionally, and ultimately spiritually.
Yeah.
Is really the only true coming into wholeness we can have.
Yeah.
You can't kind of cheat your way to it. It's got to, and for me, spirituality can have a very simple definition. That definition involves a sense of connection, like through this one mind connection with the universe and with each other and all that. And the other is just a sense of meaning and purpose, that it's for a reason, that it's going somewhere. And that's where I can see this, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and the phenomenon of man is such a beautiful kind of example of how, yes, it can all be going in a positive direction that's beneficial to all of us.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to escape the tyranny and madness